all their dynasties all the way back to 1913. So huge violations of law that we're shutting them down. And then guess who I sued on Monday? United Nations. Guess who I'm suing today? Mexico. Enough to declare war against Mexico. Then I'm suing every state in the union, and the lead's going to be California. No, the Attorney General for California, he's not even a real citizen.
Well, where are you getting all your money for all this?
Cheap. You know what it cost me? $400.
Yeah.
And so I sued all the colleges in June.
So you're not using a lawyer, or you being your own lawyer?
I'm too smart. I don't need a lawyer. They love it. I sued all the colleges that played my judges. The judges are pissed. They played all my judges. They even forged the intelligent judge's signature in March. They just got finished doing it again. Okay? And so I sued all the colleges that played my judges and that were linked to the murder of my husband and the attacks on me and my kids in June. I sued Area 51 for all of us in September. I sued the European Union and a lot of the European countries for having nuclear reactors fueling those Mesa weather satellites that use my technology and my husband's and Steve Jobs' Apple operating system. I sued the FBI and also included Mueller, Comey, and Way. That's why they're letting him dig his ditch right now. Oh yeah, he's done it. Mueller is. And they're just letting him dig his ditch.
I would hope so. We got to see. I mean, the people are the natives are restless. We need to see some of these people in handcuffs.
Yeah, but right now it's about going to, let them dig themselves. Right now we got control over the federal.
I don't know how much more digging you can do. I mean, we got it by the balls.
Well, when you go after the Federal Reserve cartel, do you know how many immigrants?
Oh, I understand what we're up against. I'm saying already we have enough to start chipping away at their minions. Clinton should be already on the defensive.
But the most important people are the immigrants. They're the ones that are shooting us up and killing us. Okay, you got the Mexican cartel in here doing those shootings. You got them, all the immigrants in the colleges, professors and students and dreamers and anchor babies are running the mind control system that do all the damn shooting. They are more important. And you know how we find them? Easy. They have stolen numbers. They just made sure I met a guy that married somebody from Japan, and she goes to U of H. She's a professor. He didn't know. I said, son, she's not who she perceived. She couldn't have come over here and worked in the mind control system if she hadn't worked over there before she got her PhD. She's worked in it. She's working in it right now. I said, and he told me, I said, she can't get a Social Security number before she's a citizen, so hers is stolen. All professors are stolen. Nikki Haley was the daughter of an Indian immigrant. Hers are stolen, so are her parents. She's in violation of the Patriot Act. That's why Nikki Haley's in a whole lot of trouble. She's our ambassador to UN, and Elaine Chao.
She should be.
Elaine Chao, you know who she's married to? Mitch McConnell. She came over at 8 years old. She's got a stolen number. I brought the cases down to ICE. Del Rio test in April. When I went back in May, I added Huma Abedin, Elaine Chao, and all that, and that's why they called me bright and early the next Monday morning. That was Friday evening on the 5th. And the next day to get him out was the 8th. They didn't know I was going to add all those names that were big dogs that I knew had stolen numbers. And so right now, I'm pretty sure Cohen's going to be able to suppress that evidence. You know why? Because my case against the FBI says they work illegally with the mind control system to watch 24/7, to frame people, to get evidence they wouldn't know about, and it's illegal.
Well, what about this raid on Trump's lawyer? How the hell did they get away with that?
Mind control, and that's why this morning he filed a motion to suppress it. He's gonna win because of my case against Mueller and the FBI, okay, of how they work with the mind control system, which is 24/7 monitoring, which is illegal, okay? And that's all in my FBI case, okay, against the FBI. I told them they frame people left and right to get people out that are a threat to the... See, everybody they fired is every time I filed a new case, there was new evidence against different entities. Like, that's why Secretary of State Tillerson had to go. When I sued the president in office of every office, all the way back to 1924, I went all the way to when we closed our borders, the office of the president and every executive agency. And so Trump knows about it. That's why if you see him all the time on TV, he's got his hands like this. That means, and he's wearing a blue jacket, not a black jacket. The law enforcement, FBI, they're folded. They can't do shit because of me. And so basically I went up to the Federal Reserve because all the slush funds from the stolen Social Security numbers are trillions of dollars that we need to get to.
All right.
Okay, and so, but I know all the different types of slush funds that you don't know, but I know about it. And so they told me they were ready for it, and I let them know in my cases where I'm likely going next. So when I came to town on the 22nd, was it the 22nd? When did I file against? Yeah, the 22nd. When I came to town on the 22nd, they did all kind of things to say, we need you to go after the money, you know. But I needed to file 4 motions that I felt was important for that case. When I filed the 130, they fired McCabe, FBI, the day before because of the case. They were trying to delay his firing based on my case, but he had to be fired before my case was filed. Then the next day, they put that garbage truck in front of the GOP. I talk to them several times a week up in Washington, let them know what I found more in the Constitution and what I've got and what I'm filing and when I'm filing. And after I file it, I call them and let them know. My Texas representatives, the GOP, Poe and McCall, I tell them. I just talked to them this morning. And so, but the Democrats only recently found out when I started talking to Kennedy.
When you say you talk to them personally?
No, I talk to their aides, but but you know how powerful that is? When I talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, everything's recorded, yeah.
But the big thing is I'm talking to Georgetown and George Washington University that forged my judges' signatures in 2014 that are defendants in the June case, and they know it. Mm-hmm. Okay, they know they're defendants. So if I Facebook something, I say if Trump takes us to serious, I just Facebooked this, and then they changed everything. I said
Facebook did.
Yeah, I said it is a violation of the U.S. Constitution and the Patriot Act, because that's the biggie, and the Patriot Act. If we go to war in Syria, because it's none of our business, unless we get attacked on our own domestic soil, it doesn't qualify for us to get involved. And so I said, so someone better tell Trump that if he does it, he'll be in violation of the Patriot Act. And
he's already crawfishing on that.
Well, but the thing is, but this is what I said. But it won't be Trump that will be going. It will be the mind control colleges involved in doing that. Because that's George Washington, and I named him. I said that's George Washington, Georgetown in D.C. I said, and then up there where Trump Tower is, that's Rockefeller University. That's been named two times. I said they've been named in the case against the university, and then they were also named in the United Nations.
Name
case.
A couple of these cases.
It's owned by the. See, I named all the dynasties back to 1950.
Name a couple of the cases. What are the couple of the cases that I can look up?
You can't look them up. They sealed.
Oh.
They're at the Foreign Intelligence Board. So what I'm saying is, I sued all the dynasties back to. I found 150 names for Rockefeller back to 1930. Their heirs. And sued their estates.
This has anything to do with the 18,000 sealed indictments that they allegedly have. You aren't part of it. Is that part of you?
It could be. Yeah. A lot of it is all linked to me. This morning, if you Google immigration headlines, they just shut. See, no immigrant has a right to due process. You can't get in our courts until you have a legitimate, non-fraudulent application for citizenship, until you qualify for it. That's 5 years down the road. And if you stole education funds or any benefits before, you don't qualify. So you're not, none of them. So what they did this morning, Trump and them shut down. There was a program that tells them how to apply.
Oh, yeah, I know that. That was in the news. Yeah.
But that's why they shut it down, because of my cases. Because you can't let them in. It's illegal. Yeah. You are stealing our court fees and our attorney court. And those immigrant attorneys, I have all kind of documents. It's sitting right here, the case against Mexico, where they constantly give testimony that they know they have stolen numbers. Well, you're stealing court course with them, and you know you are. You know they have a fraudulent application, and you are guilty of the Patriot Act if you yourself don't have a stolen one. So I've listed all the regional directions and the national directions for the Hispanic. It's the Hispanic Bar Association. Massive. Most of them have stolen numbers, and they all worked in the mind control system. So they're all, even if you don't have a stolen number, you're out because of espionage activity that you participated in. And right here I have the Mexican Constitution for this case. So I just got finished studying the Mexican Constitution. You know what that says? if you are a Mexican citizen and you come into the U.S. and you have a baby, that baby is a Mexican citizen.
Ooh.
And
so bye-bye anchor baby.
That's right. And I already argued that with the American Constitution, how that worked, and they loved it. But this time I put my argument for. First, I went through the whole Mexican Constitution that applies to what I wanted to go after. Education, they give them free education. See, what I'm suing them for is I'm suing them for the theft for every citizen that stole our benefits. I'm suing them for the murders that occurred because they stole the Social Security numbers of the U.S. citizens. I'm suing them for all kind of things. Do you know, in 1917, do you know why they let are you familiar with the Bracero program?
I've heard of it.
But it was agriculture. It started in 1917.
Right,
I'm suing them back in 19... You know why it happened? It was set up by the international bankers to put pesticides on all our foods, toxins to kill us. And most diseases, there's no such thing as cancer, it's caused by toxins. And then when that was successful and they didn't need to do the Bracero, they stopped that and they did another entire new program in 1965 where where the U.S. would send their raw materials to the Matagoras program and manufacture them, and they were supposed to send the toxins back.
When are they going to stop the chemtrailing?
They're supposed to. This is not chemtrail.
I know. Go ahead.
Okay, so they send it back, but they don't send it back. There's proof that they don't send it back. What they've been doing is taking those hazardous toxins and manufacturing in the products and then bringing it to us. Mm-hmm. So that's murder. And it starts with them. So I prove that, okay? And then you've got Bracero, a Mexican citizen, doing all kind of shit. And so if you go to and see one exhibit that I'm putting in, I found 39 U.S. congressmen with fraudulent citizens, 39. I can know a fraudulent citizen. It's easy to find. Well, if you understand, if they were a child in public education before they would ever become a citizen, then they stole, they can't be a citizen. So a Bracero child, that's a pure example of one. So when I looked at all the congressmen, when they say it was a child of a Bracero, it's got one. And when I called the California legislator about a month ago, let them know what I had, I said, let me tell you what I got. I'm going to rip y'all apart. That's why they're going after each other. They know I'm coming. I said, I'm going to rip y'all apart. You're going to be lead state for all states. I said, I know I can identify a fortunate citizen, and you got 36 at least in your legislator in California, and you, of the 17 coming from California, 16, they all have stolen numbers, okay? And most of them are Democrats. Mm-hmm. I said, so you know what they did? They changed their bio that no longer talks about their parents. Only for the Mexican Hispanic one, not for the Asians. Did you notice? After I filed the case on 4-2, I went after the Federal Reserve. You know what they did immediately the next day? The YouTube shooting.
So what this piece of crap is trying to do, California Senator using bill to kill free speech. Look at his last name, Pan.
Oh,
look at him.
You know why? Because I've already, in this case here, I tell how they didn't change his bio.
Yeah.
But that's why he's in the news, because they didn't change his bio, but they changed all the Hispanics. Because what I'm telling you is, now they're bringing over mostly Asians.
Yeah. Been doing that
in college,
yeah.
Not the Mexicans and the Cubans.
I've been doing that for a while.
And so the Latin American ones are, when they kill, like they do all our shootings. Okay, so they did the Parkland. You know why they did the Parkland High School? Because it's right where Mar-a-Lago is.
Yeah.
And so that whatever they have to undercut, they learn there to do. Okay, back. And so they had to shut up anybody that worked like an Asian one that would know. So when they killed those students, most of them were Americans or an Asian. They weren't Hispanic. And then the U2, an Asian. So I figured, I said, oh yeah, that's what's going down there. They have a war between themselves.
Oh, I would, no doubt. Yeah.
But it's to my advantage. And so I put that in there. That's how I know for certain that the shooters are Latin America Hispanics. Mm-hmm. Okay? I know that for a fact that the shooters are. It's their cartel.
Makes sense. Just all the whole weirdness that's going on right now. We're supposed to go to war over what? How many? A few dozen people that got gas. But they're discovering mass graves on the border of Mexico.
But they're sending all the troops down the border because of my cases. It's quiet. Like they know what they're getting ready to do. Okay? We're not going into Syria.
Yeah, I don't think we are either.
No, it's a
feint.
It's because of what we're getting ready to do at the border.
Yeah.
Because of my cases give them all kind of power. When I file against Mexico, the power they get, and when I go after Cuba, the power they get is unbelievable. It's my cases that give them the power.
Cool.
And so they love me. You know what I mean? And so, but I still always have to watch. Like I was there at 8:30. They're having a meeting, and so I said, "Oh, they're trying to steal this." See, when I came on 1:30, they hacked my truck. They caused me trouble with my truck, so I was late. Let me show you the stuff they do. So I was late. I normally get to town at 8:30 when the doors open, get it finished, and get back. I drive at night, sleep in my truck, and come back because I'm constantly working on a new case. And see, when I had to do the nuclear reactors, that few of the Mesa weather satellites, I had to learn all about that stuff. It took me a month to get educated on Mesa weather satellites, weather satellites, reconnaissance satellites. I had to learn about everything in order to summarize it, give exhibits for the judge, but help him understand quickly. So what I have to do is I have to do the research, then I have to summarize it, give him what I think he needs, and show him where other resources are if he wants to go there. But I have to do it in such a way that he knows I'm not guessing. But the other thing, I know what they got, and I just have to give them what they need to get to what they got. Okay, so when I went at the Federal Reserve, you know Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
You know why she's back in the public eye again? That is, I forget the name of it. It's the SWIFT payment system. It's an international payment message system that the Federal Reserve and all banks use, that when you're going to transfer money, they send a message. Well, the FBI has been watching that for years. And when Obama wanted to transfer that money by plane, they made sure 2 banks were out of that system 2 years before, so they wouldn't be watching the money that was going to go in there. So I knew how important that was. So when I gave them...
Can I help you? Sure, help yourself. Yeah, if you'd like to leave anything in the Bulletproof Vest Fund.
So when I gave them the Federal Reserve case, they already had the shit. And so that's why Taylor Swift came back in the news. They got it. And that's why the YouTube, everything's live now. Because they have the power to get everything that they know about. They never had the ability
like the
before.
Trump crime family, but they'll get
and so that's why they're ecstatic.
Great.
And then when I went after the United Nations, and you know, I listed the United Nations Security Council all the way back to when they started, 1945. So that's Bush Sr., that's Gore, Obama sat in on that, that's Baker, Nikki Haley, every UN ambassador, you know, Bolton, the one that went to, he was one. And so that's why Trump sat there and he had his hands like this when he came. You picked a fun day to come to work. That was the day I filed it. I filed it bright and early Monday morning when he came to work against the UN. So I went after many of the divisions of the UN. I didn't just name the UN. I went after the council, went after the court that does the foreign exchange students. I went after the international justice because they're forging the stuff. And it's getting presidents against us. So I went after significant divisions so we can get retribution for what they did to us. And I made them and the Federal Reserve cartel liable for all false wars and all refugees that came over. Besides the countries.
I wish you'd find something to do with your time, you know, maybe a hobby of some kind.
You know what? I'm a finisher. Everybody, my whole life, I finish everything that I do, and no one, I just took one day at a time, knew I had to divide and conquer. I had to go after the manpower, I had to go after the money, and I had to go after the supply routes and the supplies. And that's what I've been setting up. I want to hear what you okay? So we got the manpower, okay? Because once you get the Federal Reserve cartel, but I divided them first so they back off. Area 51, the colleges, the ones in New Orleans, you know, and the ones in Houston, started dividing them so they had to back off, okay? They couldn't help protect the Federal Reserve cartel by the time I got to them. They had to back off. And so I went to Starbucks. I was in town early, so they specifically had a guy whose wife is just Hong Kong come over to get her PhD at University of Houston. So they made sure he came in and sat there, and so she married an American and so now he knows that she should never have had a number because she's not a citizen yet. It's stolen, and their son, you may think your wife is as honest as can be, but she couldn't have come over to work in a mind control system if she hadn't worked with it in Japan already.
Write your contact information down here so you can keep me up to date on some things, all right?
Well, you can find me on Facebook.
Yeah, I know, but I just, when I get home, I take all the business cards.
I have a Donald Trump hat on, okay? And so, So Trump knows what's going to. Whenever I do the case, I will deliver it to the U.S. Attorney to be hand-delivered to Jeff Sessions.
What's Sessions doing? Well, is he just fainting, or is he just, what's he doing? Is he playing possum?
Everything's being done secretly for my case. He's doing stuff that nowhere near as powerful what I'm doing. But he can step up, which he is starting to step up because of me. But he knows what's really going on.
What do you need you for? He should have been doing it himself. He should have your energy. He should have your tenacity.
There's a difference between me and him. You know what the difference is? I've never committed a crime. I've never gone up against it. Okay, I'm 100% integrity. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody and no politician does.
Yeah.
Even Trump doesn't.
No.
He married 2 immigrants that have stolen numbers. You do realize that. I had reported my lady to Trump when I went down because I had to contain her so that she wouldn't be running my country. I did that in May. Okay, that's why you don't see her. Okay, so they both have stolen numbers, Alana and Melania. Okay, I don't think their children, his children do, but I'm not sure because a lot of times it's based on the mother. If the mother has one, the child may get one, even if married to a U.S. citizen.
What a mess.
Yeah. Like my daughter, she's dating someone from Canada. I said, Kim, it's best that you don't get, I can't talk to them about much, okay, because it's not safe for their life. I said, it's best that you not get married now, because if you do, you may have to go live in Canada, and you need to be prepared for that. Oh, I will make an exception for my daughter. See, he's got dual citizenship. I don't know if he has...
What would make Canada safe?
Well, what I'm saying is she's dating someone for 4 years now, okay? And so I don't know if he has a legitimate number. His dad was a physician. His dad's a killer, okay? But he was adopted, and he could have been an American citizen before the adoption, okay? And so I don't know that. I can't talk to my daughter. If I would speak to them about that under mind control, they wouldn't let me interface with them at all. They set up my son's marriage, and within 23 months, they ended it. Because the danger, the liability. His sister-in-law was an assistant DA for Harris County, and that was huge liability. See, they were going to frame my son and take him out after they took me out, but they never been able to take me out. You know what I mean? So, but they were close when I had that hip problem. I had a hollow hip, 10% fracture when I moved back to Texas. It was caused by toxins, and they hid it from me. And I was losing my hair. See, I would file a case with my truck. I would travel the whole country and advertise it. Everybody, and when I would travel, they would take 18-wheelers, flip it off the road ahead of me, burn them on the other side, flip them, take down airplanes, everything when I travel, because the Asians and everything would see the stuff, not the ones that would want to help. Okay, so they do it all the time. It was unbelievable. They flip them. About 30 minutes to an hour ahead. They know the route I'm going, and they do so. When I got to LA, February 2017, they took down a 4-seater plane from Silicon Valley, ran into 3 homes within an hour of me entering LA. They do all kind of shit when I travel. I don't travel anymore because it's dangerous. You know the Pulse night shoot? You know what happened? I had been out to California. I knew there was 4 secret submerged submarine bases on the West Coast. I prepared that motion to add it to the espionage case in Baton Rouge on 6/10. So the next day they knew I was headed to Florida after I was going to put it in port and spend my time along the coast finding them there. So they did the post-night shooting to warn Florida not to help me. They didn't really help me.
What was Vegas all about?
I'll explain that one thing. So I spent 21 days along the Florida coast, and I didn't even get them all. You know how many I found? 21, and there's one directly under Hillary Clinton's hotel. Put that in the case on 8-1. They forged that judge's signature, forged that case, ended it, but they never dreamed I would start another one immediately and put all that shit back in the beginning. And that's when it went up with the intelligence score. And I included all the colleges that were forging my stuff as defendants in that case, so they had a big problem. And I grew in understanding. Okay, so they went, and that's why Comey did all the stuff he did. Okay, so what were you asking?
Vegas.
Okay, Area 51. Area 51 is funded mostly, a lot of it's funded by gambling. Gambling in Vegas, it's only 83 miles north of Vegas underground. So it's funded by the gambling, and it's funded by football and all that. That's why O.J. Simpson got out that morning early and they did the shooting that night. Because NFL, it's all rigged. The computer chip in the ball and in their head, they rig all sports. And for betting purposes, and all casinos. So that's why they did that shoot. And see, let you know what they did to me when I was at FEMA on a month before that. When was that? That was in September. They did that. But the month before, I stopped at FEMA in Virginia, where their headquarters are. Mount Weathers, there, and the control office of the control conflict is below. They were in my case that the Morton Feldman had. So FEMA and them always said, "You got your truck with all your signs on it. You got it." No, I brought my little car. I don't have my signs on it there. Or sometimes I had a sign for my little car too. When they wouldn't fix my truck, I said, "You're not getting this truck. I know you want this truck. You're not getting this truck. It's fraud on the sale, huge $10,000 that you stole from me." I said, "And there's all kinds 24/7 hacking into this computer. You are never getting this truck." So I said, "I just bought me a cheap one." So I bought me a little hatchback. Put the sign when I went to, when Hillary Clinton got overheated at 9/11. That was my fault. I got there with my little hatchback. The whole thing, it said everything. The whole about the case, who's in it. She was in it. The Joint Chiefs of Staff, all, and it even covered my license plate. And so I got there at 6 o'clock. Went and had coffee right by the place, and then I realized, now I'm just going to drive around. Drove around, went to Central Park near where her office is, and they wanted to know, under mind control, the guy asked me all kind of questions. I said, I got her ass. I got her ass in 2 cases. And so within 30 minutes of that conversation, they took her ass out. That was massive code. So I stayed in that area until about 4 o'clock. When I headed north to Albany to advertise there, the cops got behind me. I had no license plate. Got behind me on both sides. They were like, "Oh, right, we like what she's doing." They do it everywhere I'd go. Okay, and that's how I divided and conquered. I educated the mind control system, the students, the patriots that were still in there, and the ones that have recently come over from other countries that would want to go back home. Okay? So everything is, I can tell you why everything's done. Okay? And you got to understand code. Remember, colors mean everything? Give me an example. Did you know that the Saudi king came to the country? The Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Okay, did you know that the oldest people in that country is basically 35 years age? Everybody else is gone?
Yeah.
So you do realize what happened, right?
Yeah, they purged a lot of the...
genocide.
Yeah.
Okay, so they know what I'm doing. So he went and saw Trump. He wore his headgear.
Right.
Okay? He went and saw Hillary Clinton. I saw that picture. He wore his headgear. See, I didn't even know he was coming. I just saw him in Houston when he was in Houston. So he went and saw Bill Gates. He wore his headgear. He comes to Houston, where I live. They make sure my mayor wears a beige suit. You know what beige means? You're lit up.
Okay.
And he comes in no headgear. Okay? Just a suit, casual looking. And they make sure when they film him, he's rubbing the top of his head when he's talking to Trump. It's symbolism. And so what it was, you're here, Vicky McLean, and we know what you're doing. And we know who you are. I am the chosen one at the end times revival. My blood, I have the bloodline of King David. I have the letter M that's required. I am the one. Jesus didn't die on the cross, he survived it with the rest of his life in France.
Was this a Saudi Arabian?
Saudi Arabia, they all know who I am.
Yeah, but who's the one? They are?
I am.
You are? Oh, okay.
Okay, because I didn't know I had Jewish blood until 2014.
Oh.
Okay, and it's the bloodline of King David. Plus, I believe you have to have the last name beginning with M. That's why the Maccabee book is not in the Protestant book, but it's in the Catholic book because they thought it was them. So when they killed one brother, the next one took it and they kept killing him. So what they did was, Jesus was a traitor. His last name was probably McLean. Okay, the McLean name comes from James and John. Okay, his cousin. So it's probably that name. My husband didn't have the Jewish blood. I got it from my mother. My mother's mother. Okay, so but I have the last name M. And it's not just your acronym, it's McLean. I'm here to clean up the mess. Okay? So they know the mind control system across the globe know who I am, know what I've done, know what I'm doing. They know I am the promised Messiah. Not a God, not supposed to be a God, just supposed to have the Jewish blood of King David to lead the people across the globe, to turn it so God starts to put that bloodline on every throne, ruling according to the Torah. So every time I finish a case or a motion, I'll give guidance to the court from the God of Torah. That's appropriate for them to know. The first 5 books. Okay? Mm-hmm. So the Romans wrote the New Testament full of lies. Romans, Jesus taught the opposite of what the Pharisees thought, so he was a traitor. Okay, yes. Weakening the Pharisees so when they revolted they wouldn't win. They set him up to revolt in 66 when he's way over there having a good old time in France. It was Gaul at that time. That was the political headquarters for Rome at the time, and still is today. The Roman Empire is the European Empire. Okay, so from 68 they slaughtered them all. They wrote the New Testament in 7. Paul was a spy. Now, did you see the series called Turn by AMC? George Washington and the 6 spies?
No.
Do you have Netflix?
I'm sure you can look. You can get anything on the internet. Turn, right? Turn.
T-U-R-N. Washington. You want to watch? It's 4 seasons. It's excellent, but you need to understand when you watch it. Washington was not supposed to win it. He was working for the British, and he would never take Talmadge's recommendations. And the reason why we won, Washington didn't know. They didn't perceive that he was a spy, that he was working for them. But there's enough in there for me to know he was. And so that Talmadge did stuff in the very end that he didn't know about that caused us to win. Because it had happened last minute. So I didn't have time to discuss it with Washington. And it changed the whole outcome. And so the Constitution, we had spies. Hamilton was one. Washington was not quite right. And I found all those pieces. Knew that in that group we had British people in that group, and we always do. And Hamilton was one, and Washington was one. So, because it says you have the vice president presides over the Senate, violation of the Constitution. That's clear. I'm a CPA auditor. Separation of powers? Well, wait a second. You're in the executive branch, and you're coming over to sit in the legislature branch, and you can make the ruling thing on many things. No, that's not separation of powers. Right. And checks and balances. You can't write an executive order without the Supreme Court checking it, which no checks and balances. You can't issue a law, Congress, without the Supreme Court checking it first. They never do it. So I caught all kind of shit. So I would call. I said, let me tell you what I found out. Oh, you guys, I got you. Y'all are dirty. I'm going to be filing against y'all. I'll let you know when, but it's coming. But I'm taking you out in the meantime. Because I have to show how, instead of having 3 separate branches, we don't have that type of functioning. What's been functioning is what they call a fusion of power, where the executive branch and the legislature move together. That's what they've been doing for years.
Yeah. So how long are you going to be around, Vic?
Well, I'm going back home probably tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what shit they're pulling up. If they pull shit and I have to stay to Tuesday, I think it's a holiday on Monday. think it's a federal holiday.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So they told me to come back at 1. I went back at 10. I got there at 8:30. They had a meeting. I went back at 10. They still had a meeting. And so.
Who's they?
The clerk's office.
Oh, okay.
But under mind control, they do things and they don't. When I filed my last one, the head guy in the pro se came out to watch to do something. He goes, well, they brought it back because they had marked it differently. And he went, what's this? You know? So he had to white out what they did. So his own staff, you know, I said, look, you're going to need to be watching things very closely because they know how much we're winning and they're going to do everything they can to stop it.
So, you can't just take a picture, can you?
Sure. If you'd like to leave anything in the Bulletproof Vest Fund, it's always appreciated.
So when I wanted to file the affidavit of service, when I deliver it, I have to record the delivery in the case. Well, the other pro se clerk was going to make me do a motion to leave. I said, I shouldn't have to do a motion to leave. This is a totally new case. They don't have that order in this case. This case was just filed. So Jay came out. I said, Jay, no, she doesn't. And that's why, and they did that mistake, I said, Jay, you need to, I said, I'll be back bright and early Friday morning. You need to watch them real careful, because under mind control, they want to do everything they can to stop the Mexico case and every case after that's coming. You know what I mean? And so they had the meeting, and it's done. Mind control pulled that off. Okay.
So when do we start filling up Gitmo? That's what
What's that?
When do we start filling up Gitmo with all these?
What's Gitmo?
Guantanamo.
Oh, that's not that important right now. That's
throwing people in. I mean, isn't that where all these crooks are filing the suits against be?
Well, let me tell you what's top priority: to take down the weather system. Okay, and to get the immigrants out that have our numbers and stop the toxins in the food.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 20 million Americans dying a year.
Yeah.
Okay, they're already stolen the Social Security numbers of our future children that aren't even born yet. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of that.
That is what we're going after. We can't get the weather machine yet, but we can. Once we get the immigrants,
they're killing them in the womb right now.
Once we get the immigrants, we get the operators of the weather machine.
Yeah.
And see, all the other countries.
You know, it was just publicized the other day that China, it was in the news, it's leaking out,
but
that they have a weather machine that's going to make it rain over an area like 6 times the size of Connecticut or something.
Google
or Spain, the 6 times the size of Spain.
Did you see this article? Did Maser weather sites cause Irma? Google that, and you'll learn a little bit. And then start looking at the history of nuclear reactors. You know how that got developed? Are you familiar with the Manhattan Project?
Yeah.
That's what it was all about.
Yeah. I mean, and even Tesla came out and said he didn't want to go down that path.
No, Tesla was all in it. So was Einstein. Google the Kaiser Wilhelm Society.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Kaiser
Wilhelm. Einstein, that was the Manhattan Project. They are the Manhattan. That was the 1,600 German scientists. 2,000 went to Russia. That is the underground mind control system, and that is the weather system. And they already had nuclear reactors at that time. Already had them.
Yeah.
They had them small scale. They needed them big scale to fuel those Maser weather satellites. They already, they started that. They were the first one that was fueled by a nuclear reactor and not uranium was Hurricane Fox that hit Cuba. Okay, in 1949, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
no, 51 or 53 because they were going to make it public in 54 because they knew they were going to be finished. Okay. So India has 2 big ones that might have done Irma Harvey.
Yeah.
Okay. I think India did Katrina.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think India's done a lot of ours. Okay.
Interesting.
And then the jet. When you watch a program, you watch it for code language. Have you ever watched Endeavors on Masterpiece?
No, might have once. I know that name, but I don't.
The reason why they did that is because that's where the jet is and the colleges, and they had to threaten them to keep their mouth shut. Okay, so everything on TV is to threaten a group. And so, and then you understand what colleges are there, okay? So the dominant colleges that were involved in setting up our economists, setting up the Federal Reserve, the Manhattan Project and everything is Columbia and Harvard. Yeah. They're screwed right now, and they know it because of me, okay? And Trump, Rockefeller University and Columbia controlled the Clinton Foundation and Trump Tower. Okay? And so, I'm just saying, when you put 2 and 2 together, I put too many... A lot of these guys had to know this stuff, but never had a way to get to it. You know what I mean? But with my odd education, being a nurse, and also being an auditor, and then not being allowed to work, because somebody got my number in 78, 79, and then my husband was forced to work at it, and he didn't like it, my dad didn't like it. They didn't tell me anything. So they didn't want me in nursing, so they gave my number away and they started attacking me. So when I wasn't allowed to work, I built homes, I learned how to play the market, I learned everything. Okay, so when I realized I have to do something new, I go, oh well, we'll figure it out. So I learned about everything. I just figure out how to learn. And so by being such a hard worker, not super intelligent.
No, it's just tenacity will get you through most everything, yeah.
But I'm a thinker, and I'm a problem solver. And the other thing in my personality, I'm a cleric. A cleric is usually 99% right. They'll figure out a way to solve a problem, and it will always work, but no one ever see it the way they see it. Mm-hmm. So when I was following these separate little cases, they weren't sure what I was going to accomplish. And I just knew I had to divide them up and roll them against each other. Okay, so I started with the colleges.
That's not very nice.
And then I said, well, 51's their boss. Now let's go after 51. Okay, now we got the nuclear reactors and all that shit. Let's go after them. Then I said, oh, then the FBI is framing all my people and doing all kind of shit. Let's go after them. I said, oh, now it's time to go after the president and all the executive agencies. And then I got better. I used only the Constitution. In my case, it proves that you cannot use court precedent because you have to assume that it was forged if it doesn't line up with the Constitution, or they were coerced. Back in Roosevelt's time, they coerced those judges to do what Roosevelt wanted that was against the Constitution. So I had proved that. I had proved it about Roosevelt, what he did to judges. So they know in my cases, it is not acceptable ever anymore, really, to allow court precedent as an argument. You have to argue from the Constitution, period. And law, if it agrees, but you've got to make sure that law first agrees to the Constitution, since it was never checked, and too many of them don't. So there are so many dangerous executive orders. I've made a motion and I showed them how dangerous they are, and you don't have time to go back and look at all of them. You just have to revoke them all. But then I said, but then I give up. I say that Vicky McLean just gives up when it comes to all the acts that were passed that were unconstitutional. You can't solve that way. And my suggestion is the Supreme Court is going to have to get in a huddle for quite a long time and figure out how to solve that problem, because typically if you don't accept the whole act, then it's revoked when they vote. And so if there's a problem, one part of it's unconstitutional, how would it have been voted on? So it all should be revoked. So there's so many laws that should be revoked.
Oh, yeah.
And because of my case was coming.
Well, then most of them aren't even laws. They're just executive orders.
No, I'm talking about the laws that Congress passed.
Well, I understand that, too.
But those are laws.
Most
of them are in violation of the Constitution some way, somehow. There's pieces in it. And so that's
been a lot of the big problem, wouldn't that?
Right. Yeah. And so Pence, once they knew I was going after Pence, this is what I call the guys. I said, let me explain what I'm doing. It's real important you understand what I'm doing. I said, when I filed this case, I called the guys up in Congress. When I filed this case, what I'm going after the executive, the president, and all the offices, and I'm even naming some. Okay? What I'm doing is effectively, I'm putting them all in the same airplane, and I'm taking them down at the same time. So I'm taking down the office of president, I'm taking down the vice president, and the secretary of state. So who's next to be president? It's Ryan. So do realize what I'm doing is it's what you call a 96.
Can I take a picture real quick, or does that cost me?
Sure.
So this is what I tell the guys. Tell the guys it's a 96. You know what I mean by 96? You know what a 69 is?
Ready?
You know what a 69 is, right? Okay, so 96 is the opposite?
If you'd like to leave anything in the Bulletproof Vest Fund.
So what I'm doing is, what I'm effectively doing is taking everybody on down at the same time. I'm on top and I'm in control.
All right. Vicky, I need to set up here. Come back and talk to me.
But that's why Vice President Pence does not sit in the Senate anymore. Because he knows he's violating the law and I got it.
Good.
He can't become president. I mean, they can't remove Trump because he's in too much trouble. He's also been a governor. When I go after all the governors, I get him twice. So they cannot remove him. All they're doing to Trump now is trying to get him to break the law with Syria and that. But Trump knows what's going down, so he won't do it.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah, that's why he's doing like this.
Yeah.
He's wearing blue jackets instead of black.
Yeah.
Blue means law enforcement. Baby blue, me. Purple, me. Have you ever seen weather women wearing purple and it's down here showing their breasts now?
Okay.
Well, it happens a lot, especially in Houston. And what it says is royal blood, bloodline of King David, she's got everybody's attention. When the Homeland Security woman that's in charge now, after they moved Kelly up, that was because of me they moved Kelly up to try to get rid of Kelly. Because he never got my report, and he was supposed to. So they hid him from him. He doesn't know that. And so when she went in front of them, she wore a white jacket and a black dress showing her. And you know what that meant? I had the Federal Reserve Cartel's attention. You gotta understand code, okay? All color, and when you see something odd happen, you see a shooting, you put the names of those streets because it's gonna tell you the message. Okay?
Okay. All right, Vicky.
Actually, right now, the Saturday Night Live, they put in the Shirley Temple. Shirley Temple helped the people rise. I'm the Shirley Temple. That's another nickname for me now. I get new nicknames all the time because everybody, like, it was on the news when I was coming in that there was reported a tiger was loose all up in New York City, Manhattan. Well, I'm the tiger. Everybody knows that. And then so it turned out to be a raccoon. Well, it's because they know I sued the goddamn United Nations, the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve Cartel. And the reason why they had the fire in Trump Tower, I reported to the Houston, made sure I knew that the Rockefeller was having an auction of all their fine arts, billions and billions, to money launder their money overseas. And I notified the court when I filed against them, the Federal Reserve Cartel and the Federal Reserve. In the closing, I notified them that they were getting ready to do it. So what they did, Rockefeller University is funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, which is the defendant in the case, okay? And the Rockefeller University is the defendant in the other case, which is, they're in two cases really. So they started the fire, and the guy was an art dealer.
Okay.
To warn everybody.
Okay.
That's how it works. So the people starting the fire is always mind control. So what's the message? So when they did the YouTube, everything's live, swift. The message system for moving money, they not only have they seen it, now they get to go after it. That's what that was about.
All right. Talk to you soon, Vic.
And that is the reason why Amazon, because the no sales tax was the money launderer and not to know about it.
Yeah.
And they do a work around Bitcoin, same thing. And his daddy, his grandfather, Manhattan Project. He was nuclear in it. And his stepfather, Bezos, he took the name. He was a Cuban asylum, stolen Social Security number, and those were the funds that started Amazon. And I made sure they knew that. And so then he went to work for Exxon, Bezos, his stepdaddy, and he worked underground. And he had worked in the college in New Mexico.
Wonderful.
So that's how I got.
I need to get set up, Vicky.
But that's how I got Amazon.
Right.
Okay. I have a booker's knowledge.
You do have that. Oh, that was Vicky. I have to go back a year and catch some more of her videos. She's something else.